Good evening.
Hi.
Hi, Reginald. Hi, Benita. Alexa's on too. Cool.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hey, good evening.
Everyone.
Hey everyone, how y'all doing? We'll give a few more minutes for people to roll in and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Roshaki, I love you playing around with the Zoom background. That one made you look like an astronaut.
Well, I had to reposition where my office is. I had a bedroom previously, and we had to move my office into my bedroom because our niece has moved in with us. And I didn't realize till I got on the call that I didn't have a background. So you guys are like just looking at my bedroom, which is kind of weird. So I was trying to fix that quickly. But now that you said that, Leah, I think I'm gonna leave it in outer space because I'm way out there.
There you go. Yeah, I'm a big proponent of blur the background. I think it generally works pretty well, but that's just me.
Right, generally, that was a good way to say it.
I just had an older computer until recently that like couldn't handle doing different background things. So I've just gotten used to like people have to deal with whatever decorations are in my house.
That's
And I
right, it is what it is.
tried it when I got a new computer. I just never even bothered trying like, oh, does it work with backgrounds now?
And it probably does, but I'm with you. Be your authentic self, right?
Yeah. What do we have today so far?
We do have quorum, Brian. So
Yeah. That's what I was just counting.
I will say Alicia isn't here yet, so we may just want to perhaps introduce her at the end. Everyone else.
We have Alicia and Moira, our two new people.
Apparently, Moira resigned.
Oh, already.
After she got appointed. So I don't know what the deal was. That's all I heard. But yeah, so we only have the one right now.
All right, we'll wait a few months and see if Alicia joins this month or not, or if she's going to wait until next session. I'm not sure yet.
She's in attendees right now.
Oh, that's the problem.
There we go.
So someone's gonna have to invite her to become a panelist.
Oh, hi, Alicia. Sorry about that. And just so you know, Brian, Rachel's not going to be here, but it is her last meeting as well. So, yeah.
And of course you already know it's my last meeting as well.
Yes, but you're here, so we can honor you, Carl.
So yeah, okay. But I'm so thrilled that Alicia Curry is joining at this exact same time, so we can have a former DHA employee still be a member of the Citizens Advisory Committee. So yeah. No gap there.
One second. I forgot to open up my agenda for today. But yeah, I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Our last meeting for this fiscal year. So welcome. Glad you all made it to the end of the year. And thank you for coming. Hopefully you all have good summer plans coming up or some fun plans. But thank you for making time for this meeting. I will turn it over to Leah to do the roll.
Hi, everybody. So let's start at the beginning as always. So Valen.
Valen is here.
Ahmed.
Here.
Beautiful. Robert.
Hello, here.
Alicia.
Here.
Rachel is not here. I am here. Rashaki,
Here.
Alexa,
Here.
Gerard,
Here.
Amy will not be with us tonight, and then Brian,
Here.
Richard, I don't see, Seth,
Here.
Carl,
Here.
and Anne.
Here.
Wonderful. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, Leah. Next is, I'm gonna actually switch these orders since we're just doing roll right now. It seems like the perfect time. We do have one new member, Alicia. Thank you for joining us and being interested in this committee. Glad we actually got you into the meeting instead of just watching. Do you want to take a minute or so and introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Alicia Curry. As Carl noted, I'm a former DHA employee, but now I work for the state in their Office of Recovery and Resiliency. Most of my career has been with HUD funding, so I'm pretty familiar with CDBG and HAPWA, all the good stuff. So I'm super excited to be here. I've been in Durham since like 2008, took a few breaks, but this is home now, so super excited.
Great, glad to have you. Welcome on. We do have, so first order of business now for voting and stuff is going to be approving last month's minutes. Hopefully everyone had a chance to look over them. And if no one has any comments or noted changes or anything, I will take a motion to approve them.
I'll give it motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
All right. Hearing no noted changes or edits needed, all those in favor of the minutes say aye.
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 Hi.
And any opposed say nay. All right, hearing no opposed, we'll approve those minutes. And with that, I will hand it over to Bridget, who's going to do, give us an overview of her department in community development and the work they're doing.
Thank
Good evening, everyone.
Bridget, let me offer a couple of comments before you get started. And Leah, I see that Richard LeBennett has joined us. So Bridget, as you know, we've had, of course, of the year, several of the managers of departments, of teams to come before you to share the work. And so Bridget Stevens is one of our newest managers. She'll tell you a little bit about herself, how she comes to the city of Durham and the government, and a little bit about her background. But she is the newest on our team in terms of managers, and we're glad to have her. She's been doing a great job. The compliance and contracts team, as she will share with you, is a central team for us in our work. And so I'll turn it over to Bridget.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. As Reginald stated, I'm before you today to provide an update or brief overview on the compliance division that's a part of the community development department for the city of Durham. My name is Bridget Stevens. Of course, as he stated, I'm the contracts and compliance manager. And I've been in this role here with the city coming up on about 90 days now. So I'm fairly new to the city of Durham as an employee with the city. My background is in federal housing. Housing Authority background, Durham Housing Authority, Sanford Housing Authority, and most recently I come from the city of Fayetteville managing their home and CDBG programs. So I'm happy to be here with you all and nice to meet you all. Next slide, please, Ms. Benita. Go back, yeah. So that's my information and my email address if anyone needs to get in contact with me. Next slide, please. Tonight's presentation will cover some of the topics of the objectives of our department, some federal compliance, period of affordability, our MWBE goals, and any upcoming MWBE outreach opportunities that are coming forth within the city. Next slide, please. The main objectives of our team is to oversee the preparation of contracts for the affordable housing and community services within our department. We also oversee compliance with applicable federal and local requirements. So some of our key functions involve developing and implementing compliance protocols for different projects that are funded by city and or federal and HUD funds. We also manage the contract review process from start to finish, reviewing the contracts that are drafted by the department staff, ensure they have the appropriate provisions in accordance with the funding sources. We monitor all active contracts, whether they're community service or the affordable housing projects during their period of affordability. We monitor them for compliance with contract and programmatic guidelines according to funding source. Next slide, please. So this slide shows the various funding sources that flow through our department. The compliance team ensures that all contracts, regardless of the funding source, adhere to the federal and local requirements. We have CDBG funds, home funds, HOPWA funds, ESG, Emergency Solutions Grant, and also local dollars that are represented by the Dedicated Housing Fund and bond dollars. So some of the areas that we cover when we're dealing with federal compliance is, of course, NEPA, or environmental clearance. That's the Environmental Protection Agency. As the City of Durham is the responsible entity, we're required to assess environmental effects for their proposed actions prior to making the decisions. So we address and or mitigate any necessary adverse impacts, whether it be environmental or socioeconomic. As far as Davis-Bacon, we ensure that contractors pay their subcontractors the appropriate wage rates as determined by the Department of Labor. In Section 3, that has to do with resident training and employment. To the greatest extent possible, contractors are required to provide employment and contracting opportunities to residents or businesses that qualify Section 3. And those people may be, sorry, it's my dog. Those people may be your public and assisted housing persons that are get financial assistance, those who are youth build programs, etc. Also, in the period of affordability, we ensure that owners and managers of affordable housing units constructed with these funds continue to comply with ensuring that residents meet income requirements, and they have to continue to recertify them annually. And the properties are also maintained in accordance with minimum housing code. The terms, the period of affordability can range from as long as 30 years, and that's indicated in the development agreement and the loan documents. Next slide, please. Not only does our department ensure compliance with multifamily development that the city financially supports, we also monitor other contracts that are funded through CDD. This may be the HOPWA contracts, community service contracts, rental assistance programs, minor repair programs, etc. One of the first things that we do is conduct a risk assessment to determine the level and frequency of monitoring throughout the period of performance. Based on the risk assessment, whether that entity is this, if it's their first time receiving federal funds, we may require that they're monitored quarterly, semi-annually, or annually. We also review financials, audit records, review agency program policies and procedures, and also review case files to ensure that they're providing services to eligible applicants. Next slide, please. Of course, another key area of focus for the compliance department is the MWBE. That's minority and women-owned business enterprises. This is especially important to the City of Durham as they've set their own goals to attempt to maximize awarding those contracts to the greatest extent possible. The city's goals are that 11% of total contracts are awarded to minority businesses and 7% of total contracts are awarded to women-owned businesses. The city is contracted with UMC-NC, which is United Minority Contractors of NC, to assist with outreach and working with developers and general contractors to ensure that they promote and market all of the available opportunities to all sectors of contractors. This slide you may have seen before. This just shows the total funding and the different various funding sources that are flowing through the Community Development Department as part of the Forever Home Durham. And UMCNC is assisting us with getting the word out, working with contractors to get their certifications and insurance requirements that they may need. So they'll be eligible to compete and bid on some of these projects that are coming through. Next slide. This slide shows the UMC-NC reporting. As of April 23, they reported that out of a little bit over $54.5 million in adjustable spend, approximately 26% of that has gone to MWBE businesses. And that 26% is made up of 5% Black-owned businesses, 10% Hispanic, and 11% women-owned businesses. And when we say adjustable spend, that's talking about the amount of funds that are able to be procured or bid out. Some portions of the contracts may not be able to be procured. For example, like your for-profit developers may have an architectural firm with legal expenses that are not subject to procurement practices. UMCNC is continuing to work with us and with other entities to provide outreach and assistance in getting the word out to the MWBE businesses. Some of the upcoming opportunities for new contract awards, it's the Southside development. We do have additional phases forthcoming. For example, UMCNC assisted just last week with the developer for a contractor outreach event. Also, of course, with DHA and the CNI opportunities, there's several opportunities there. There was an outreach event held in May for the Commerce Street project. Another project that's upcoming is Beeman Street. That's a homeownership project with the city. And we are working with UMC-NC to plan an outreach event this summer before we release the RFP so that we can attempt to get the word out and promote contracting opportunities with the city. And also there are some ARPA-funded multifamily development projects that are forthcoming as well that UMC-NC will be assisting us with. Are there any questions at this time?
That was a lot of info.
I have a quick question. Looking, I know you have the slide where like certain percentages of fundings are aimed at minorities and women-owned businesses. Could you speak to like how those percentages are like selected, and is there like kind of a program for like increasing them over time, or?
That's a good question. I might have to defer that to Reginald to see if he knows how they were selected. I know it's been in place since, because I've been here about 90 days now, and these are the goals that have been in place. I don't know how long they've been in place. Reginald,
No, I'd be glad to. So those goals have been in place. Those are goals have been in place for quite some time, and this goes back to the MWB ordinance that the city council adopted many years ago when we had our office of I've forgotten the office of name, but Deborah Giles was the head of the office, and those were based upon some type of study that I remember that they looked at what the business populations were over minority and business populations over different industries that the city frequented. These are goals for the city. And so that's where those goals from, and those are goals that are adopted across the city for our various contracting opportunities, not just community development.
Thank you. Any other questions?
In relation to the how it captures the data for the minority and women-owned businesses that receive contracts, like how it was separated with like Black and then Hispanic, Latino, and then women, are those, what's my question? Like, are those, like, does women represent women who are not otherwise Black and or Latino, or are they like commingled?
Those are good question. Those are women in general, women owned, whether they be any race or ethnicity.
So it could be like double dip, like the percentages could be crossing. Is that? I think that might be what Valen is getting at, and that's a great question.
I can get clarity on that from UMC-NC and provide that update for you.
Yeah, that would be great. I was just
if they're touching one or more of those classifications.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll clarify that. I don't want to jump and answer, but I don't think that we engage in double counting. But we'll clarify that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Bridget, for your time, and welcome to Community Develop. I know you guess you've been here a few months, but welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget.
And now I will turn it over to Reginald for an update.
Well, greetings, everyone. Hope everybody's doing well. I'm going to just provide a little update on this year and what we have planned for next year. I'm going to run through my slide presentation rather quickly. This is a slide presentation that I did share with the City Council actually a month ago. I think it was a month ago today, a month ago yesterday. And so I wanted to share this with you all to give you an update on what's going on in the city of Durham as it relates to community development. I think, Benita, did you email these to everyone so that, or we will email them?
Benita, if you'll send them to me, I'll put them in the minutes.
Okay, super.
I will.
All right, super. All right, so again, our next slide. So what I'm going to talk about, I'm gonna run through this because I know we don't have as much time as I had the other day, last month, but talk about a little bit about affordable housing affordability, which we've talked about before. I'm going to talk about the Forever Home Durham 2023 highlights, and then I'll talk about the Forever Home Durham 24 priorities and challenges, and then stand for any questions. Next slide. So the presentation is divided into sections that we just outlined, but each section has this picture that we have of the Joyce. If you remember when the Housing Authority Executive President CEO came before us, he talked about the Joyce and well as J.J. Henderson. And use this slide because this is representative of the work that we have done here and using the money for Forever Home Durham. One, we were able to partner with the Housing Authority and renovate 170 units, 100 in J.J. Henderson Towers. And then we were then additionally able to build 80 new units for senior citizens. And so that's just part of the work, and the people, may want to know where did the money go? Well, this is an example of where money actually went to rehab the J.J. Henderson Tower and to build 80 new units. Next slide. This is something that we already know we've talked about. This is just showing that the median home price for residents of the city of Durham is $382,500 a year. That was in February, and you can see how it's going up. Well, and then you know that it's going up. And then for rental incomes, rental homes, you can see how the income has been going up. The rent has been going up. Next slide. This is a slide we put together. One was done in May of 2023, and it was the number of apartments for rent, with the median rent for one bedroom being $1,400 in Durham in May of 2023. And we looked at a number of available apartments that have a monthly median rent of $1,100. And then we got that from the HUD. That's what the HUD fair market rent is. And you can see that there were only 145 units that were available at the snapshot that we took this from apartments.com, because you can see the challenge that we have here in Durham. But you know that we talked about that. You've seen this slide before. This is just representative of why we do what we do. And so I'll move on from this slide. Next slide. Then we go to the highlights for this year. Next slide. So the highlights for this year, We awarded $16.7 million to create a preserve 681 units. These are the units: Cedar Trace Apartments, Sandy Ridge Station, we gave them $5 million for 132 units. Fairhaven Walk, $3.3 million for 192 units. And we did a rehab for JFK Towers. Many of you may be familiar, that's a older project, apartment complex. And then we committed $25.8 million to create a preserve 355 units. And the South Side phases 3 and 4, $7.7 million at 100 units, affordable units. Elizabeth Street, this is part of DHA, $6.6 million at 72 units. Hardy Street Apartments, $6.9 million, 132 units. And Ashton Place, which is at downtown near the bus station. This is next to Willard Street Apartments, $4.6 million, 51 units. Next slide. Then highlight, we've talked about this before, just the idea of even having the Choice Neighborhoods grant and being awarded $40 million to redevelop and revitalize 5.9 East Main Street, Liberty Street, and the surrounding downtown neighborhoods as part of the Choice Neighborhoods initiative grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And then we have received, community development has received $10 million in ARPA funding that we are using for our affordable housing goals. And actually that is being matched by the county. The county is awarding, giving the city $10 million, and we have $20 million worth of projects that we were able to fund that we were not able to fund had it not been for the ARPA funding. And many of you may not be familiar with ARPA, but that's money that came from the federal government as a result of COVID. This is a slide you've seen before, just gives a summary of Forever Home Durham and describes what are our goals. If you remember, I just looked at the first one, to build 1,600 new affordable rental homes and preserve 800 affordable rental homes. And you see the rest of the goals, we've talked about that. And going back to the point that Bridget just raised in her presentation, talking about the goals for minority-owned and women-owned business enterprises was to create $130 million of contracting opportunities for MWBEs. Next slide. Bridget just showed you this slide. This is just the breakdown of the plan over the next 5 years. Next slide. This is just describes all of the funding sources. We've gone through each of those at different times. Next slide. Funding sources that are not within Forever Home Durham. So in Forever Home Durham, we have the sources that we just talked about, just listed, but there are some that are not in Forever Home Durham. So basically, we have another pot of funds. Many of these funds are funds that we used prior to Forever Home Durham prior to 2019. And so that includes the dedicated housing fund, all of entitlements and bond program income of any year, which is in the income received from the repayment of past affordable housing bond referendum. Next slide. This slide shows the progress to date. This is what many folks are interested in. And if you look at this, this bond, this tracker here, you have the goals that we just talked about. For example, rental units created, what's the total? We wanted 1,600 units. We just talked about that in the goals. And what you're looking at here is how many units are in the pipeline and how many units, that's 1,257. And there are 451 units under contract. That means there's an actual contract where we have our money is going to some arrangement that was building the units. And then how many have we completed? 162. And then you have the balance remaining, the total that we've created in the, and then the balance remaining. So for rental units created, it looks like we're going to exceed our goal. That's what that number means when we have 270 with parentheses. Then you have the rental units preserved. Remember that was a goal of 800. The pipeline is 27, the under contract is 56. and completed 355 for a total of 438, and we still have a balance remaining of 362. The home ownership opportunities created has been the slowest that we've been able to get off the ground, but fortunately, we are going to announce that our down payment assistance program will be open up the end of July. But we have 90 units in the pipeline, under contract 6 for a total of 96, and we still have a balance remaining of 304. The first slide that I shared with you, where the median housing income, the sale price is affecting this greatly because it's just been tough to be able to provide home ownership opportunities for the income level of the persons that we serve. And then for the homeless persons in permanent housing, we have a goal of 1,700 persons to serve. This is not in terms of units, but in terms of people served. And so we've served 1,481 for a total of 1,481. And so we have a balance remaining over the 5 years of 219. And then low income housing, household stabilized, the goal was 3,000. This includes eviction diversion, rental assistance, various programs. We've been able to help to stabilize 1,810. And so we have a balance of 1,190 left. All right, next slide. The Forever Home Durham financial overview, and next fall, when y'all come back, we'll have a more detailed analysis by project of the financial overview. I wasn't going to spring that on you tonight, but we'll talk about that. It'll probably take a session by itself. But the budget is approximately 44 million, and the increase over FY23 is driven by increase in budgets for multifamily production and preservation, neighborhood stabilization, and the homeless services. Next slide. I'm not going to go line by line here, but this is a list for your review of the status of each of the major projects that we've done or are doing, and where they are in terms of their status. You see some in the pipeline. That means that we're working to put the deals together. Under contract means it's actually an executed contract. And then completed, of course, actually the units are completed and their certificates of occupancy. And so you see the total here of everything that's in process. Next slide. Then there's some additional activities, like I said, the funding that we have that's not in Forever Home Durham, but even though it's not in Forever Home Durham, it does yield units that we use and have been successful with. And here's a list of those projects: Laurel Oaks, Maureen Road, Willard Street, projects on Grant Street, SW CD10, this is with Durham Community Land Trustees, and then some individual home ownership opportunities, particularly with Habitat, but also DCLT. Next slide. This is money with the American Rescue Plan. I was sharing with you that we had about $10 million. The city has $10 million. We're going to match it with the $10 million from the county. And so these are the projects that are going to be funded with these projects. And you see with that funding, you see the number of units there. Next slide. This is a similar same slide that Bridget just shared with you for the MWBE contracting. Next slide. Then, and these are I'll use this for your reference, refer this to you for your reference, but these are the different, more detailed projects and areas that we're working in homeless services, including the Unsheltered Coordinating Agency, which is a partnership with Durham County. And then, for example, support the emergency shelter operations and rapid rehousing with Family Moving Forward, Urban Ministries, Housing for New Hope, and Project Access. Next slide. Then for neighborhood stabilization, there's going to be some minor repair and substantial rehabilitation RFPs issued later this summer. And then we have a 3-year contract with vendors to assist low-income seniors at 65 and over or disabled homeowners with repairs. We'll also be focused on the 4th year of the eviction diversion program. And the long-time homeowner grant program that the city is operating will be completed this year. The city and the county have a joint program that's county-wide for tax assistance, but we will no longer have our individual program as the city. And then the down payment assistance program, we will relaunch in next month, as I just mentioned. It's going to provide up to $80,000 in down payment and closing costs to homeowners with in household incomes 80% of the AMI or less. Next slide. COVID response. There's some things that we still did with the COVID response because it's still kind of closing out, but we continue to fund the non-congregate shelter support and the including the hotel in White Flag. This is for cold weather for those who are homeless. Provide additional funds to support the rapid rehousing through the end of this year. We have a partnership to provide assistance to micro businesses impacted by the pandemic. And then a partnership between City of Durham and Durham Public Schools to address COVID-19 learning loss in 4 schools located in low to moderate income areas. This is Burton Elementary, W.G. Pearson, Y.E. Smith, and Fayetteville. This is after school, summer opportunities for the kids. Next slide. So just going to the next year for our priorities. Next slide. These are, and you'll have these for your reference, but we'll continue to move rental projects forward. It's been hard with the challenging with the economy and cost increases, but I was sharing with the council that we've been able to move pretty well and make it through. And I think we all can see our way to the other side. But we'll be still working with the Housing Authority and a downtown a neighborhood program. And then, it's really fortunate that we're getting $20 million in ARPA funding. And we may actually get some more. I'll be meeting with the county commissioners next month. And we have presented another set of projects to them, and they're interested in funding those. And so we may have another partnership above the $20 million. I just talked about some of the goals in the homeless system that we will have. And then we also have our goals in neighborhood stabilization, our priorities, including the down payment assistance, eviction diversion, minor repair, substantial rehabilitation, and surplus property. We have about 15 lots. We're getting ready to go out with an RFP for home ownership and hopefully get some nonprofits to build single family houses on those or duplexes. Next slide. The challenges that we have for the upcoming next year, of course, rising rental prices and the lack of landlords that will accept vouchers. The increase in costs for sale housing, we've talked about that and you know very well about that. And then the workload capacity of community development. We have about 4 people coming onto our staff next month. Still operating with a vacancy rate, but we're working actively to fill those positions. And then also the capacity of our developers and providers, because a lot of them are still coming out of COVID and people are stretched to the max. Next slide. So in summary, we're making progress, though not uniform, through all of the Forever Home Durham categories. Some of the categories we are projected to exceed our goals, and some of the categories we're still striving for progress. As a reminder, though we have expended resources, those resources are not enough to address the need, which is being exacerbated by the current economy and housing market. And then we have been successful to the point of providing sufficient additional funding to keep our multi-family projects proceeding despite increasing construction costs and interest rates. We've not lost a project yet. And so that's one of the things I'm particularly proud of. It's cost us, but we haven't lost a project yet. And so I'm particularly proud of that. Next slide. So I'll stand for any questions. I know that was a lot of information. So, the mind's probably on overload, but I'll look forward to any questions that you have.
Yeah, that's great. They haven't lost any projects. I think that's amazing, coming through COVID and still having kind of everything going. That's great.
Yeah.
I did have one question about like the homeowner assistance. I know with housing prices increasing within like Durham, are you guys tied to like assistance for housing within the city limits, or are you able to kind of expand out into like Durham County where things might be more affordable and within the reach of that program?
We are tied to the city limits of Durham. I think we may have got some money from the county that we could use for some, and that might be getting my home ownership and my repair. So we did get some money from the county for repairs that we can go outside the city limits. We got that from the county. From the homeowner, for home ownership, is just in the city.
All right, thank you. Rashaki?
Sorry, couldn't get that mute button. Thank you. I echo Brian's sentiment that that's great that you haven't lost any projects or contracts thus far. My question is in regards to projections, since COVID. I know that, projections were made pre-COVID, and that you have your budget meetings and all that good stuff. But I'm sure there's been discussion, right, around about future projections. And I'm just wondering, like, what is the plan? Are you all trying to wait for just kind of an idea of when things will settle since COVID, or how is that affecting your projections?
It's affected them greatly. Here's an example on a home ownership. So we budgeted when we were pre-COVID. I think we set a goal of about 400, and you saw the slide that said a goal of 400. We're not going to make that number because that was based upon $20,000 second mortgages. Well, we've just had to increase the amount to 80 instead of 20. And so what the impact of that is that it's going to lower the number of households that we're able to serve. And really the truth of the matter is the 80, we're pushing it at 80. It's one of the highest of comparable programs. And the way the market is going, the manager particularly wants us to get that money out to help people, because if it still goes the way that it goes, and 100 may not be enough to help. And so what that actually does is that for every mortgage that we give, that means that there are 3 less mortgages that we have because we're increasing the cost. So that's one example. We've been fortunate that particularly with the Housing Authority and our partnership, looks like we've been able to exceed the number of rental units. But again, that's one of the costs about drivers, because we put in quite a bit of money to keep these projects going, and it was one of those things where you just had to, hold your nose and just do it, or else lose the project, lose the tax credits, indeed lose more money. So I would say had it not been for COVID, we probably would have gotten more units. So does that help any?
Yes, it does help further inform. I guess my question is more, do you have any idea when you can reasonably review those projections and there be a little more of an accurate opportunity to provide projections? Like, is there any idea of that time frame, where the projections might be a little more accurate?
Yeah, well, no, I think I understand what you're asking.
I'm sorry, I'm not asking it clearly.
No, I would say the projections that we have now are real time based upon what's going on now.
Correct.
When we will revise those projections, we'll have to get out sometime in the future and see what facts we're dealing with. So the projections we have now are based upon those are the readjustments.
Like you said. Okay, got it. Yep, that answered my.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you.
Thank
And,
you.
you're welcome. You're so welcome. Benita, you can take the presentation down. Thank you.
Any other
Any questions? I know that was a lot of information, and we can, come back to it at any time
Yeah.
that you desire.
I do have one question from one of the participants. They're asking, the senior housing needs are very troubling. How do you work with kind of citizens to kind of balance the needs for senior housing with citizens' interest in all the apartments going on in downtown?
Well, I mean, the truth of the matter is, the senior citizens that developments that we have are really partnerships with the housing authority. And it is tough to, figure out, where that line is. And we're just working on trying to service as many people in different demographics as we can. That's the reason the housing authority in particular built that new unit, 80 units with the Joyce. That's 80 new units that's online. And then when we look at the Ashton Place, which is going to be right next to Willard Street, right by the bus station, that's going to be another 51 units only of senior housing. So those are two units of two developments of only senior housing that are coming in new on downtown. How do we do it? It's partly based upon what tax credits are available, what developers want to do, and what money we have. And we try to stretch it as far as we can.
Thank you.
I don't know if that helps any, but that's probably the best I can give.
Thank you. Ahmed?
Yeah, you mentioned the second unit or the second 51 units near downtown. I was wondering, is that the one I saw recently a sign on Fayetteville Road. They put up a sign that said something from the Durham Housing Authority coming soon, 2014 or 2024. And I was wondering, is that the one that's only going to be senior housing?
So no, that's not. So the one that you're looking at, talking about Fayetteville Street is Fayette Place. We've talked about the housing authority, CEOs talked about that. That's the 19 acres, 20 acres that's going to be, they're looking to redevelop. That's separate from the 51 units I just told you, just shared with you. That's next to the bus station. That's next to Willard Street Apartments. So this is another complex that's going to be about 3 stories tall. It's flat lot now, but they're going to start working on it this fall to build additional 51 units. But those units are only going to be for seniors.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And then Rashaki, did you have another question, or is your hand still up from before still?
Sorry, just need to lower my hand. I apologize.
No worries. Just want to make sure I didn't miss it going back up or anything.
Actually, I do have just a follow-up question. Is that on Fayetteville Road, is that going to be more like apartment style, or are those houses? Do we have an idea, or?
It's going to be a combination. So one, the deal's not been finalized, but the goal is to have, of course, it has to be mostly rental, because it was rental to begin with, and because you have federal money in it with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, you have to replace all of the units. That's number one. But it's going to be more dense than what it was, meaning there'll be a total of more units, more rental units. There are going to be some opportunities for commercial, particularly on the part that faces Fayetteville Street, that's borders Fayetteville Street. That's part of the plan. And then they're actually going to look at doing some type of home ownership opportunity on the site as well.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then any other questions not, I have one more from an attendee before we move on. And they're just curious of what projects are going on with the HOPWA money.
So the project HOPWA, Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS. This is a program that supports persons and families who have HIV positive and or have HIV. Most of those are used for tenant-based rental assistance, meaning helping people with their rent and their expenses. There aren't any actual projects that we use that funding for. Bridget, did I capture that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Reginald, for the update.
Oh, you're welcome. So very
That's
well.
a lot of great work in the last year. I think that's exciting. I think it'll be a good year moving forward as well. So, all right, moving on to various board discussions and other business. We do have some terms ending. So Carl, this is his last meeting with us. I think it's Amy's as well. She's not here today.
It's Rachel's. Amy's
Rachel, not Amy's.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's okay.
Wrong person's name. So Rachel's not here. So unfortunately we can't kind of thank her directly. We do want to thank her for all the time and effort she's spent here as well. Carl, since you are here, any parting words you have?
I'll just say it's been a good 3 years. I would have re-upped if it wasn't for the fact that I just joined another board, and if I didn't have a 15-month-old, I'd probably handle being on 2 boards at the same time. But I just, it's been really interesting to be a part of this board for really an exclusively COVID time. And I kind of feel like I sort of take some of Reginald's comments just now to say we maybe really kind of turned the corner on how bad a wrench that threw into the work of this committee and the work of community development. And I'm feeling pretty good about that right now. So it's really been a pleasure getting to serve with all of you, and I wish you very, very good luck in the year to come.
Thank you, and it's been great having you as well. I wish you the best in everything you do next. And the other board's getting a good member. So with that, we also, so some of you may or may not know, this meeting is the end of the fiscal year. We then typically don't have a meeting in July, and we restart the next kind of term in August. So with that, we will also end this meeting with voting for executive positions again to start the August meeting. I will say I am planning on kind of stepping down and not serving as the chair anymore, just because I've been incredibly busy. I've missed the last few meetings, so thank you for Lee and Carl for picking up the slack there. And just in general, I feel like it's a good time. I think I'm the last of the people who are on this committee pre-COVID. It seems like, a lot of very enthusiastic people have come in. And so I think it's a good time to kind of hand off to, the post-COVID team. And then I'll be on, see out the rest of my term on the board, just so I can be here as, help if anyone has any questions or anything like that. So generally how we do this is, we'll take nominations for each position. We'll do them one by one. I think we'll start with the chair. I think it's usually how we do it. Carl not continuing on, too bad vice chair doesn't get to move up, but I would like to nominate Leah for the chair position. She's honestly done more work this year than I have, and has done a lot to actually keep us on track and, organize and coordinate things. And so I would very happily nominate Leah if she's interested in it.
Yes, I do accept it. We did talk about this beforehand. He's not just calling me out with no warning. But yes, I do accept the nomination. I'd be thrilled to serve. And it's been a pleasure being your secretary, but happy to take this step.
That's good. Is there any other nominations for anyone else? All right, with no other nominations, I'll All those in favor of Leah as the chair moving forward, say aye.
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 All right, any opposed? With the overwhelming majority of votes, Leah gets to be the chair. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank y'all. I promise I'll continue to do some great work, and I'm excited to work with y'all. Y'all are so enthusiastic. It's so wonderful to be on a board that's this engaged. And our staff are top notch. So this job will be easy because of all of that. I look forward to it.
All right, the next position is then going to be the vice chair. Do we have any nominations for vice chair? Anyone interested in it? Anyone want to nominate someone else for it?
I nominate Mr. Brown if he's interested.
Thank you. I'll accept that nomination. I love the chance to work with Leah and you all more.
Any other nominations? All right, Robert accepting it. We'll take a vote. All those in favor of Robert as the vice chair?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Congratulations, Robert.
Thank you. I'll do my best. And Leah, I guess we'll be on speed dial with one another.
Absolutely. There's like a whole nother set. We have a little baby meeting before this meeting, and we'll get together. Don't worry.
I've just I've been so busy with in the quarter of my job. I'm going to place some time in for you so we can talk a lot more.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, and then the last position will be then for the secretary. Any nominations? Self-nominations, nominations of others?
I'd like to nominate Valen if she would like to accept.
I'm not opposed to it.
I know.
Yes, around here, so.
Yeah, that's not a lack of enthusiasm. I just accepted a chair of another committee with the partnership for Durham for the mental health committee. So, but I'm fine with being the secretary. Leah will just have to give me some coaching.
Yeah, it's really not that deep. I promise.
Okay.
Happy
cool.
to help out. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It's because you all made it seem like it wasn't that deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Enough.
Right.
If you can type, you can generally and remember and put a calendar reminder on your calendar to send an email to the group. In general, the secretary isn't that bad.
I can do those things.
Honestly, none of the positions are that bad. They really are what you make of them, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Right. Any other nominations? All right. All those in favor of Valen being the secretary, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations. You are now the secretary, Valen.
Yay.
Yeah, we'll go into the August meeting with those roles in place. I'm sure you will all get emails from Benita and Reginald, Leah, sometime going into August to set up the executive meeting. Probably usually about a week before. I think traditionally it's been the Monday before. I know from scheduling conflicts we've done the Wednesday before. So you'll all have that to sort out. But congratulations to the three of you. I look forward to seeing how y'all do, and I'm excited to get to watch the next phase of this. Like I said, is it feels like a whole new group since I originally joined. It's really exciting. So that'll be very exciting to watch and see. The next part is any public questions or comments. I think we've I've been pulling questions from the attendees as they were asking them. But if I have any other questions and would like to ask them now, give them a second to type things.
Was this one by Rita McDaniel answered?
The one about the Hopla was Reginald answered.
Okay, I missed that, sorry.
Donna asked about senior housing.
Mr. Chair, if Bridget is still on, I think she has a response to the question about the MWBE.
Yes, I did get an answer to that question. There is no duplication. So the only thing that falls under the category of W is a white woman. So there is no duplication of numbers there.
Valen, you were right. There you go.
I was just curious because of the way that they gave the data. I was just kind of zoned into the fact that, I mean, there's an opportunity always to increase, minority involvement, but I think if I'm not mistaken, the ones for Black-owned businesses were the lowest between the Hispanic, Latino, and then women-owned. And so I was just curious about that. And maybe that's a conversation when we pick back up or later. But if there is a reason outside of what we talked about, like maybe if there are just not a lot of Black-owned businesses in this particular space, or if that's something that you all see across the board.
So I would just say that that is a topic for next time. It is a concern. That's number one. We are having a UMC NC to help us address that. That's one of the reasons that we have them on board. That's one of the reasons they also had the session that Bridget just talked about last week for Southside for that very reason. But I would suggest for the new executive committee that that's something we may want to put on to do a little deep dive into when we come back. There's more to it than just what I've just said.
Technical probing
Thanks,
curiosity that makes for a good executive member. So, all right, thank you all. With no other questions or comments, does anyone have any announcements, things they want to share before we adjourn?
No.
All right. In that case, I will adjourn this meeting the last time as your chair, and I look forward to seeing you all in August. Have a great summer, everyone.